Hello and welcome to another Figuarts Avengers video. Today we're looking at 3 Endgame figures. I'm only holding out 2 because Ant-Man's not mine. I've already passed it back on to my co-worker. But anyway, last time with Infinity War, most of the figures were based on concept art and didn't look quite right when they were released. Last time figures like Black Widow turned out okay, but then you also had figures like Thanos which didn't look quite correct. Hulk was pretty good, but then he looked the same as he previously did anyway. And then finally you had something like Captain America, which has been discounted like hell because, like, what the hell is that? That's a face that only a mother can slap. So how do these turn out? Here we are with our 3 figures standing right next to each other, just sort of have a size comparison. Of course, Thanos is going to be big. I'm just going to bring in the Infinity War Hulk here, just, sorry little guy, go on to the side right there. And here's how big Hulk looks right next to Thanos. Their heads are roughly the same size, but Hulk is, I would say, about quarter of a head taller than Thanos. Of course, he's a lot bigger than Thanos. And from what I can remember from the beginning of Infinity War, yeah, I think that's about right, because they were fighting and punching each other, and they looked about sort of the same size, so that's good. So just gonna take Hulk right there, we've already reviewed him, and bring back the little guy. First, let's take a look at the Ant-Man figure. I'm gonna compare him with the previous ones from Figuarts. If you have the Ant-Man from Infinity War, from what I can tell, the biggest difference is, of course, that one didn't have the Paul Rudd actor head that you can easily swap out, and the other difference is the coloring is slightly altered, but from what I can tell, it is basically the same body. So if you bought that one, you're gonna be pretty pissed. It's just annoying because it's the same figure. But here, of course, I have Ant-Man from the first Ant-Man movie. Obviously, the suit is quite different from the one in Endgame and Infinity War. This suit is much more refined, much like the figure itself is also much more refined. The colors are sharper, the contrast is bigger. I think some of the joints are improved ever so slightly. For example, the leg joints here, I think on the new one it's altered and covered a bit better, and it has a bit more articulation. And of course we have a new shiny helmet. Now there are some molding bits that are the same. For example, both of these figures have pairs of sort of spray open relax hands. So from what I can tell, I think the new one is based on the old mold because the fingers are roughly in the same position, and we have the same silver piece on the end. That's fine, but they are actually different molds because on the old suit there's sort of some lining pattern on the inside of the palm, whereas the new one is moved out, it's not there. But overall the molding is a bit sharper on the new one, so I think they just took the old one, refined the mold just a little bit, or the sculpt just a little bit, and released it for this new figure. The side of the fist already attached to the figure. Both figures also have the pair of relaxed spray open hands as mentioned just now. The new figure also has a pair of item / grip holding hands. If you've been watching my videos on these Figuarts reviews, you know I think this is really important. Even for a character that's not necessarily holding anything in the film or the cartoon or the show, it's always good for them to have an item holding hand, just because it's a very useful accessory for the character to do different poses and interact with different objects. So kudos there, just good to have this pair of hands. And of course the final accessory, with the new one you have the Paul Rudd head with the extra neck, more on that later, and the old figure has the tiny miniature Ant-Man standing right there, which is cute and all, and it's a nice novelty, but honestly for most people, you just can't compare these two accessories. Having the Paul Rudd head is way more important than a miniaturized figure just to stand there. If you're taking toy photos or different scenarios, you can easily Photoshop the Ant-Man figure and shrink it. I never really used this tiny figure. It's just there, it's a novelty, it's useless. Paul Rudd head, useful. And by the way, this face is of course much better than the Marvel Legends one. I don't know what they were thinking there. That looks really stupid. First glance, that head is haha funny, but it also seems like haha funny out of the expense of the person buying the figure. It's ridiculous. The last few things to compare with both figures. The new one, inside the eyeglass piece there, it does seem like they did properly print Paul Rudd's eyes and sculpt it underneath the red transparent piece. That's good. On this older figure, they didn't have the face, but they did give us a transparent red piece. There's just nothing to see underneath, which is still better than just having a metallic shine there and not having transparent glass pieces. That would have been just kind of ugly for Figuarts standards. I just want to quickly compare the back, where there's some similar sculpts and molds here. For example, this back piece there, It's basically the same piece and it's much sharper. The molding, sculpting, all the edges, sharp corners, looks great. This one looks a little bit more rough. Like they didn't have time to smooth out the edges. The back of the helmet is also the same with both of them. And there's some red line painting there, but this one doesn't. But I do overall like this metallic shine a lot more than the old one. This one actually looks somewhat like metal, and this one just looks like a toy with silver sprayed on top of it. So yeah, the new one is way better. I mean, just look at that under certain angles. Those eyes underneath just make the helmet looks really cool. But enough of that. Swap the head, it's very easy. Just pop that out, and then you can stick the Paul Rudd head there. And there you go, there he is. And he, yeah, it looks really like him. It looks pretty good. And as for the open helmet there, it is attached to the neck itself, which doesn't hinder articulation at all. And that's really good. You might be wondering, can you use this head on the old figure? Well, I suppose technically you can, but this figure is designed to have the neck come off with the head quite easily, whereas the older figure, if you pull the head off, the neck stays in the torso, so the ball joint inside the old figure, somewhere around there, is going to be quite tight, so swapping heads is not going to be easy. Moving on to the suit there, the red shine and contrast with the matte black is very nice. I love high contrast stuff, I just do, so this is just ticking certain boxes for me. Same on the back, the arms also look pretty good. This elbow pad there looks a little out of place, but it's okay. Moving down, the pants also have that nice contrast. The belt is pretty good. Now the belt is permanently attached to this underwear area, so yeah, that's a bit of a bummer. And oh, they actually add some details to some of the joints inside, so that's kind of cool. But his back does cut out there. So moving down to the feet, not much to see here, just that grey, black. But yeah, looks good. Here's a good look at the bottom of his boots. Articulation, double neck joint for Ant-Man here. Look down, sideways, sideways, and full rotation here. I think. Actually, it gets a bit tight, but oop, there goes his head. So I can sort of full rotate, but not really. And like I said, this one does follow the neck and does get in the way of articulation just a little bit, but not too much. Torso joint goes, whoa, that's quite a lot, and whoa, that's quite a lot. But you can see some of the gaps there, so it's black, so it's not too noticeable, but still it's there. Shoulder pads are just on a single hinge, which that's quite ugly because that cuts into the red coloring, whereas the old figure, that part was a grayish black color anyway, so it wasn't as noticeable, but that's annoying. That kind of sucks. They really should have done that hinge and ball joint that they used with Kamen Rider figures. That would have been much better than this. Come on, they've been making Figuarts for over 10 years. Why are they still doing this? Has that shoulder joint that they get from Figuarts figures, so his arms can move forward like a gorilla and fold his arms around. So that's cool. It's cool that that joint's there. Double socket joint for the upper arm, of course. Arm moves up, full rotation here. Oh, there goes it. Hinge, upper arm hinge there. Double elbow joint, and hand is on a ball and swivel. Leg goes up. Well, can you do splits? Oh, almost. That's not hidden. Leg goes up. Rotation here. Leg also goes down a little bit so it can be taller and not the little guy anymore. With a gap right there. And then double knee joint. Toe goes up. Foot goes up. Goes down. And oh, actually that's pretty good articulation. That's a big range. Probably help because the design of the suit covers the joint up. And does the thing move sideways? Oh, yeah, it does. Next up, Black Widow versus her Infinity War counterpart. Now in the Infinity War figure, I did compare her to the original figures that I have, so you can see that in that video, but that figure just doesn't compare with these two. Both of these, I think they're based on the same head sculpt, at least as far as the face is concerned, because the hair is a different sculpt. So yeah, the face sculpting is pretty much perfect here. The previous one looked a bit too Barbie-like, and you know, her lips were a bit too big, just a little bit off. It does look like her from Iron Man 2, sort of, but the overall head shape isn't quite right, whereas these two, perfect. Now in terms of the skin coloring, she's slightly on the red side, whereas this one is slightly on the yellow side, and that really depends on your lighting and camera color coding and whatever. Under this light, through my eyes, the yellowing is much worse and the red is also much worse, whereas in the camera viewfinder it looks a bit better. So this version of Black Widow looks like she has some liver problems. But under other lights, like away from my filming area, this one actually looks better and more natural than this one. So you just gotta light it correctly for her skin to look As to why they changed her skin color, maybe that's just how she looked in the promotional shots, maybe. Or maybe it's contrasting to the hair color. I'm not sure what's going on there. This is a spot where I would have liked the face color to be somewhere in between both of these figures. It almost feels like they were overcompensating, like, oh crap, the last one was a bit too red, let's make it more yellow. Oops, went too far. But otherwise, both of these figures look excellent. They have the same sort of arm piece there. It's a different mold. I think the only same mold between these figures are the joints itself and this sort of stick backpack thingy. Now this one's all scratched up, you know, for warlike, whereas this one's been repainted, but it's the same mold, and these parts of the stick weapons are the same mold as each other. Compare their accessories, apart from the fists already attached to the body, as well as those handlebars of the sticks that she used on her backpack. Both these figures have a pair of spray open hands, a pair of relaxed hands, and a pair of stick holding hands. Both these figures also have a pair of those fighting sticks. The new figure also has a pair of gun holding hands because she actually comes with a pair of pistols. The Infinity War figure only has the pistol hoisters on her legs, whereas here you can swap it out, swap it in with some empty ones, and then have her holding the pistols. I think that's a huge plus for Black Widow, because that's one of the things I was complaining about the Infinity War one, like where's her pistols? Why didn't she have any? And even if I were to pose her holding the pistols from some other figure because she doesn't have the trigger finger, it doesn't look right. Now the old figure does have both of her staffs attached together like Darth Maul, like a dual-bladed thing. I suppose you could do that with the new ones, just sort of position them in a way where they're both together. It's something she did in Infinity War and didn't do with Endgame, I get it. But it almost seems like, hey, let's have more accessories in the old one and let's have some other accessories in the new one. It just seems kind of annoying, and it would have been nice if the new one had it as well. In terms of facial expression, they have the calm faces already, of course, and they also have a face looking to the side. The new figure has her looking slightly to her right, whereas the old one has her slightly looking to her left. Okay, I guess under certain photo shoots it's okay, but it's not something I'm really gonna use. The old figure also comes with an extra slightly more annoyed face, which again, it's kind of nice to have, but it's not different enough from the original face. Did I use it for photo shoots? Yes, but am I really bothered about it? Not too much. It's like a nice bonus, but not really necessary. So overall, in terms of accessories, I think the new one has it better just because of the pistols and the extra pair of hands to hold them. Having a pair of hands like that for Black Widow is very useful. If you buy other like 1/12 scale gun packs and stuff, she can now hold it realistically. It's just silly for Black Widow to not have those in the old figure. These heads over the old figure, this peg wants to stay in the neck, whereas the other one wants to stay in the head. But looking at it right now, it seems like this neck goes out a bit too much for this head, so it wouldn't quite fit. However, the new one, because the neck is smaller, this head can sort of fit right there. And even without the peg, this her hair grips around this collar, so articulation isn't great, but it can sort of hold there without the joint itself. Does it look natural? Yeah, kinda. And you can still do articulation stuff because the hair is holding her down. So that's kind of cool, I guess. So you can do that if you want to. Now to the figure itself. The face, of course, I've already said, is very good. As for the hair, I like the coloring here a bit more. Bandai Figuarts seems to have a much better time with dark hair colors. As a previous figure, they just had a slap of gold on it. Here on the ponytail you see a bit of that gold, but because it's just a little bit of an area, it's not too bad, whereas the rest of the hair has a nice gradient back to her natural red hair color, and this looks more natural compared to the gold coloring. Because of her face swapping feature, there is a little cut line there that is mostly hidden by the shape of the hair. Moving down, the suit sculpting is very nice. The suit pattern, like, it looks really good. You can see it, and when you're posing the figure, you can definitely feel the texture on the suit as well. It's very prominent, and it just feels good in the hand. It's very detailed. As for the coloring, the overall matte black finish with the shiny black lines do a really good job of highlighting the suit's details, and the hints of red lining there for her Black Widow motif are pretty awesome. And I think this color scheme and the looks of this, as well as the Black Widow logo on her belt, pretty much make this the ultimate Black Widow figure. As much as I like the Infinity War figure as well, absolutely love that figure, this just has the whole Black Widow motif down. It's like after all these years we finally have Black Widow in a Black Widow suit. Whereas, started off as an Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. suit, and now we have like a combat spy suit with her Black Widow motifs all over the place. It's awesome. The belt hides the joint quite well. Does legs go down? No, they don't. So up, back, sideways. Almost a splits. Joint is not hidden. Double neck joint for her. Well, she look far down. Not really up. Her hair does get in the way. Sideways, sideways, a little bit. There we go. These two sticks are on board pegs, so they can move out of the way if needed to. Arms on double peg inside there. Slight rotation here. Full arm rotation here. And arm goes up. Single elbow joint there. Hands on a peg and swivel. Torso goes back. Torso goes quite far forward. The belt hides the joint quite well. Does legs go down? No, they don't. So up, back, sideways. Almost a splits. Joint is not hidden. Double knee joint. Ooh, that's actually quite a lot. Foot goes forward, back, toe joint. There we go. I don't have the old one anymore. I got rid of it. I wasn't happy with the old Thanos figure. The price it cost and how it looked, it just wasn't that good. This, however, for the similar retail price as the original Thanos that they released, this is so much better. There are still flaws here, of course, but the previous Thanos figure had a lot of problems. It looked more like the concept art of the figure and not how he looks like in the final movie. And you can't really blame Bandai for that because Marvel wasn't giving out the details. They were keeping everything secret. But that still means the figure suffered for it and didn't look quite like the part. The colorings were also kinda off and it just didn't look quite right. Here, he looks much better. The armor actually looks correct for the most part, and there's still a few areas that I saw online where the boots were slightly different, but overall when you look at him, he looks close enough to the original that I'm happy enough for it. Well, the skin color problems on the arms of the old one looked like it was just molded in that colored plastic and there's no painting details on it. It looked too plasticky. Here it's better as well because the armor on him covers most of that up, which is also a plus. But one of the other downsides of this figure is they could have easily had the helmet removable. If you look at the face swapping gimmick here, because he has two extra faces, you actually remove the front part of the helmet and you have a pretty much full Thanos face here. It's almost complete aside from a few odd bumps on the top of the head. It's complete. Reminds me of like the old Robocop movies when he has his helmet off and he has a bit of a weird top of his head. Under certain angles you can sort of have Thanos with his helmet off. It's just, well, the back of it's still there. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But you can pose him with his helmet like that, I guess, like before he puts it on. So camera tricks and Photoshop editing can solve this issue, but it seems like a missed opportunity because it's like it's almost there. In terms of accessories, apart from the fists already attached to him, he also has a pair of relaxed hands, a pair of grippy hands. He also has his dual bladed balance sword, whatever he wants to call it, and of course the two extra facial expressions. He has the calm face already on the body, he has a smiling face and angry face. Do want to complain about the biggest flaw of this figure, which is a part of the molding as well as part of the accessories. It is sort of a spoiler for Endgame, so I'm gonna put a time code in here somewhere. Just, you know, click on that if you don't want that spoiler. But now in the Endgame movie, when he is in this armor, for the most part he doesn't have the Infinity Gauntlet. He just doesn't have it. If you were to say that this is Thanos from the beginning of Infinity War, then yeah, he's sort of wearing this armor and he does have the Infinity Gauntlet, but he also doesn't have all the gems attached. And in Endgame, he just doesn't have this gauntlet. So it would have been really nice for this figure to have a regular left arm for him to replace. But we don't have that. This Infinity Gauntlet is permanently attached to him, so I can't really call him the Endgame Thanos, whereas I could call him the beginning of Infinity War Thanos. But then you also have all these gems here, so in the perfect world, this figure would have the Infinity Gauntlet without the gems attached as a replacement attachment hand. That's easy, just swap out the hand. And in an even better world, his lower arm would also be completely removed and you can attach a regular arm to it, which if it's a peg or something, it would give you even like an extra bit of articulation there. That would be nice, but that's not there. So yeah, that's kind of annoying. End of spoiler area. Take a look at this blade here. There's no weathering effect or anything on it, just like flat colors, but it still looks really good. See all those details there, molding right there, and this little bit there, not sure what that is, just a little bit of a gap right there. Not sure what that's for. Knife people, sword people, maybe you guys can explain it. The copper coloring in the middle is also quite nice, and for those who are worried about snapping swords and such, You can remove this, split it apart so you can slot it into his item holding hand, and then slot this back in, and it holds itself really tight. This is the second or third time I've pulled it apart, and you see it does it really well, so that's really good. And I guess you can also pose him with his like sword smash to pieces. So starting from the head here, the head sculpt itself and printing is pretty excellent. It was one of the highlights of the first Thanos figure, and it's still good here. It's probably for the most part the same mold, for the most part the same print. So the helmet itself is also pretty good. In fact, the overall suit, the gold color is much nicer here than it was in the Infinity War figure, and the black shininess does contrast pretty nicely with the rest of the gold armor, so I'm quite happy with that. Moving down to the neck here, I'm not happy with this piece. Now to avoid hindering articulation, this overall neck collar piece, this gold piece right here that goes all the way around, is made out of soft plastic, same as this cape soft plastic I suppose. But for some reason they messed up the mold on this one, and it's something I couldn't see like before taking it out of the box, so you know, couldn't pick a better one. But that's some of the issues you have here. The holes here have a lot of extra plastic runoff, so all I can suggest is removing the head and the neck and then pull this piece out if you can. If not, then you have to get some sort of pliers in there and start clipping away at this excess plastic. And for an expensive figure and an SH Figuarts figure, that's unacceptable. This is really bad molding. It reminds me of cheapo knockoff toys. It's something I've seen just bootlegs and not an SH Figuarts figure, so that's bad. Moving down to the arms, like I said earlier, the purple here is much better than the original figure because it's covered up and it's layered by all the other armor pieces. Now the plastic here is still molded in this purple and it's not actually painted. It's acceptable here just because it's been chopped up by the armor suits. Moving down here, the details are pretty good, and there's a hidden feature in here where it says you can actually extend the arm a little bit, so you can get more articulation, so you can do more Thanos snappy poses, I suppose. And one of the accessories they are missing from this one is the finger snapping hand for the Infinity Gauntlet, which again, it's in the last figure, but it's not here. Why? They just, it's like they're forcing you to keep both figures if you want all of the... Then moving down to the legs, the painting here is also pretty nice. This gold coloring is much better than previously. One last thing to note about this Infinity Gauntlet is the coloring is better than the previous figure. That one's just far too gold and just looked wrong, whereas here it has the copperness to it, but it's still not copper enough. It's not dark enough, it's not dirty enough. The Infinity Gauntlet almost looks like it's got the grease linings from when it was molded and sculpted or forged. Here it's just too clean. This needs to be dirtied up, so get yourself some black wash or brown wash from Games Workshop or something like that, or mix it your own, and then just give it a quick wash over it. And of course be careful of the transparent parts where the gems are, but otherwise you need to give it a wash to make it look much better. Head goes down, it goes sideways, it goes up. Not really, yeah, you can't really look up. Torso goes back, ooh, forward. Not full rotation here, I think, because a lot of the pieces to get in the way. Move sideways just a little bit. Okay. Arm goes, wow, that's really tight. Arm goes up. Arm goes up. Oh, that's very, very tight. Arm goes forward a little bit. There is like a dumbbell joint in there, but yeah, it's not really doing too much. Double elbow joint there. Oh. Can he rotate his arm at least? Kinda. Oh, it's going. Yep, there's a peg inside there somewhere. But this is super duper tight. That's what she said. So, legs can go down a little bit. Forward, back. Actually, much like the last Thanos figure, this joint here is very loose. So, rotating joint is sort of there. Can you rotate his? I can rotate his upper knee, so that's something. Knee joint. Rotate there, and foot goes down, foot goes up, toe goes up, nothing underneath his boots, except some dirt, whoops. And like I said earlier in the video, you can move both of his arms down just a little bit to give it some extra articulation, so you can do more stuff. And honestly, this only looks good from certain angle because it looks like that looks silly. For the Thanos figure, compared to the previous one, at both of their original price ranges, the old one just cannot compete. It's just not good compared to this one. This one improves on almost every aspect of the previous figure, just with the downside of not having that snappy finger. And while that's annoying, this is just a much better figure. Better painted, better sculpted, and looks far more like its movie counterpart than the previous Thanos figure. If you have the previous one, get rid of it, get this one, it's much better. If you have the Marvel Legends one, or the Marvel Select one, or whatever Marvel version that they released, that one seemed to be quite good as well for a Marvel Legends figure, but this one would still blow it out of the water. This one is the Thanos figure to pick up. With the Ant-Man figure, if you have the Infinity War one and you really want the poor red head, you're gonna have to get rid of that one and get this one. The colors are slightly altered, slightly shinier here, and of course you have the poor red head. So yeah, it's a win-win for this one. And even the helmet has a nice glass look with the eyes inside and just looks so much better. It's crazy how much difference it makes just to have the eyes underneath that glass piece. It's crazy. If, like me, you have the original Ant-Man figure, yeah, that one's still nice because there's a different suit design, but overall, for me who just wants to keep one Ant-Man figure, it's not good competition. Again, the new one has the better accessories, has a sharper sculpt, better paint job, paint apps. If you do have the original one and you really like Ant-Man, have both because they're different suits. But for Infinity War, Ant-Man people, get rid of that one, get this one. And finally, with Black Widow, if you were only going to get one of Black Widow figures, this new one is the one. It has the black motif, the spy motif, has her actual hair color, the face sculpting is good, the red lining, the Black Widow logos are awesome and just kind of tickles me in that right comic book way. The accessories are pretty decent as well. This is like the perfect Black Widow figure as of right now. But I'm torn on this. As much as I just want to keep one Black Widow figure, I also really like the Infinity War one, because that figure is also very perfect in its own right. It captures how she looks. The accessory count overall is decent despite not having any gun holding hands or guns, but it is still a really good figure in its own right. I'm guessing that's the one I will sell off and keep this new Endgame one, just because I don't really want to have more than one Black Widow or any of the other, just because I don't really want to have more than one Avengers figure in my house at the same time. I just don't see the need for it, but I am very tempted to keep both of these because they both have merits to them. So yeah, if you don't have Black Widow figure already, get this one. If you have some of the Marvel Legends stuff, this one is still way better. Get this one. So at the end of the day, these are based on concept arts again, and kind of based on how they look like in the trailers. And as you know, the trailers are often edited to have scenes that look entirely different from the movie. So Ant-Man first. Overall, if you had the last figure, you're gonna be pretty pissed with Bandai right now. So do you want that extra poor red head, which is a pretty good head, but if you already have the old figure, what are you gonna do with that? You're gonna have to sell it off for a much cheaper price, and that's frustrating. The colors are only slightly altered, and it's pretty much the same figure. The Black Widow is pretty awesome, the last one was pretty awesome. Honestly, not really any complaints here. I just kind of wish like the neck joints would just, swap around the old ones, so you can swap things around. But Ben always does this thing where they just change the joints up just because. It's like, it's a different sculpt. Like, yeah, technically, but don't see why the joints have to be different. Oh well, still a decent figure. If you like Black Widow at this scale, just get this. This is good. Finally, Thanos, I feel like there's a missed opportunity here to have him like take the gauntlet off and have like just this regular arm, because the last Thanos didn't have that. This doesn't have that either, so it's kind of disappointing. He's also missing a finger snappy hand, which the last one had. They could have easily, included in here. That would have been good. But the overall figure is pretty decent. It's close enough to how it looks in the movie, and the overall armor is quite good as well. However, after taking photos of this figure, I noticed another flaw with him. Much like the last Thanos figure, he has that joint gimmick in his hand where you can pull it out and do extra poses. That has also caused the joint here to be pretty loose. So when you're swapping hands, the joint comes out with the hand, and that could be very annoying. So when I'm pulling Thanos' hand out to swap it with another grip or punch, I have to put my hand on his arm and joint like this to make sure the joint stays in the arm. If I don't do that, it will pop out and it's just really annoying. For the original price these figures were going for, they are okay, they're decent, they're really good at this scale. But for the marked up prices right now in the aftermarket, maybe wait a little bit for the price to drop, because these have gone up in price maybe just a little bit too much right now. And if you're overseas, you also got to pay for the shipping, import and all that stuff. that's going to be quite expensive. So just let the hype die down a little bit. Pick up these figures a little bit later. Hopefully the price will die down. If you really can't wait and you feel like the expensive price right now is okay, they are still decent figures to pick up. As always, you can support this channel by clicking the thumbs up button, leaving a comment below how you feel about these figures, and are you looking forward to the rest of the Endgame Figuarts when they're... And are you looking forward to the rest of the Endgame Figuarts when those come out? I'm really looking forward to the next Captain America figure because I haven't had one in a while. The last one has the Figma one, don't have that anymore, sold it off. I really hope that this one just turns out great because from the photos it looks like it's the best Figuarts Captain America. Roland, of course, that looks really cool. I've also pre-ordered Hawkeye, where it's pretty much the same figure with his hood down. I'm gonna sell the Ronan figure when the Hawkeye face one comes out and just custom a hood for him and have that come out. That's... that Bandai could have been the same figure. And I'm also looking forward to the Nebula figure. And then after that, that's gonna be it for a while for Marvel Figuarts, unless they go back and release other characters from previous movies. I'm not really gonna pick up any more Marvel Figuarts. As long as I have the core team in their best versions, I suppose. Currently, Bandai has also released pre-orders for a reissue of the Homecoming Spider-Man, as well as the Far From Home Darker Suit Spider-Man, which looks really cool, but I don't need it, so I'm not going to pick it up. They've also released pre-orders for the PS4 Spider-Man suit. That went out very quickly, but I managed to grab one pre-order for my coworker, so I'll probably film that review before I pass it on to him. I would pick up the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy if they release those. Maybe a Vision figure, Loki figure, but I'm really not that interested in any of the new movies, so I probably won't be picking up any more Figuarts for those. Other projects around the MCU are also going to start slowing down, I guess. What Figuarts are you looking forward to in the Marvel line, and what are you picking up soon, and are you going to pick these up? Leave a comment below, and share this with other people who think might find this useful. You can also support this channel by clicking the thumbs up button or thumbs down button, turning out block off or Patreon, all that good stuff. And of course, you want to check out the photos in this video by heading over to the Facebook link in the video description below, or Tumblr, DeviantArt, Instagram, all those sites. As always, take care, have a nice day. I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye now.